Hello,
Welcome
or welcome back,
to the Womanly Podcast,
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety. From the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
an effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
What are you ladies drinking tonight?
Dr. Pepper,
From?
McDonald's.
And how did you get there?
How did I get there? Well, I went to Chick-fil-A first and they gave me way too much ice in my iced tea. So, I drove through McDonald's to get iced tea, but then I was like, I want Dr. Pepper.
Beveraged up. I also have two beverages. I have a Topo Chico with a twist of lime, and I have a Perrier sparkling water with watermelon flavor. I've chosen the
Wow.
Perrier first, and it's very good.
Why decide on one when you can have both?
Right? And that's kind of how I felt. I was going for the Topo, and then I saw the Perrier, and I was like, oh, kind of want that. And then I realized, ¿por qué no las dos? And I got both.
That's it.
Yep.
Well, mine is not exciting. Mine is coffee with protein powder in it.
That's pretty exciting. It's
Is it?
unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. It's collagen protein powder, so it's
Mhm.
good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my water, double fist in it, you know?
Protein, coffee, and water.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, how are you ladies feeling today? Really? How are you really feeling today?
Oh no. You did this on purpose.
I actually didn't. Before you guys had texted anything, I planned that question yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go. I'm just feeling kind of off. I don't know. My morning started out good, and then throughout the day, I've just felt kind of crappy,
Yeah.
and it just keeps going downhill.
Mm.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. It's
It's
like,
just one of those things.
yeah, like nothing in particular happened. You're
No.
just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Don't really want to live out the rest of the week.
Yeah, just call it quits on a Monday. I
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah.
I would love to.
I'm there too.
Yeah.
It was kind of a rough weekend. Actually, it's been kind of a rough few weeks, but this weekend was kind of rough. And as much as I tried to survive it with a smile on my face, it didn't quite work out that way. And I have some lingering effects. So,
Mm.
yeah. But I'll be fine. Just bleh.
I feel like I am where I was like 2 weeks ago is exactly there.
I know, we're just on a delay or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, so I can bring the energy, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
good.
I'm doing fine now. I'll balance it out. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I am, if I want to say how I'm really feeling today I'm really feeling frustrated with not having enough time to get work stuff done. There's like, because February like blew up in my face for multiple different reasons. And so I did not get much done on a goal that we have this quarter. And so now I have a lot of catching up to do.
Sometimes those things just happen though. And if you've got other things going on in your life that like work has to kind of slip a little bit for, then
Mm-hmm.
I'd say let it slip.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thankful because my boss is very understanding of that as well. He's like that with everyone. Like,
That's so nice.
yeah,
That makes
That's invaluable.
all the difference.
it really does make all the difference. It's like, oh, I actually get to be a human being.
Yeah.
Wow, what a revelation.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My personal life and everything doesn't have to die for work?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this America?
Wow.
Well, today we're talking about friendship in our 20s. The good, the bad, and the weird.
I think we should call it the good, the hard, and the weird. Because as I was talking, like
yeah.
writing out my bad stuff, I realized I was like, it's not
not
really
bad.
bad. It's
It's
just this is
hard.
what makes it hard. I think one of the good things about it. We'll start on the high note, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Start with the good.
I think obviously 20s is age 20 to 29. I don't feel like I actually have to point that out, but just to frame where we were at. Whenever I was 20, I was in college.
Mm.
I was a junior in college, so year 3. As much as I thought I had things figured out at that point, I definitely did not.
Yeah.
And so from there, I went from like, obviously I had 2 more years of school, and then I went into grad school, and I'm almost 28. And so now I've had like a handful of years of career under my belt and job changes and stuff like that. So I feel like I've learned a lot in the past handful of years, a lot more than I did in school. I feel like my early 20s, I just didn't have a lot of this down. The first good thing is that I think whenever you're in your 20s, emotional support and friendship is so important.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's important when you're in your teenage years, but whenever you get into your 20s and you're going through, like, life is so tumultuous and everything is just changing so quickly, and you're supposed to make all these really important decisions and stuff like that, and having friends that really truly support you through all of those things is invaluable. Like, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. Along those lines, I feel like because you go through such a transformative stage in your 20s, you know, it's like whether you're like getting into the best part of your career or you are still trying to figure out what you want to do. Like, I was still figuring out what I wanted to do until I feel like I still am.
I still am, definitely. Yeah.
But look, I'm very comfortable, like before I had the job that I have now, because I'm very comfortable where I am now. So like, I don't have plans to leave anytime soon. But before that, I was like, I had no idea. I didn't go to college. I went to cosmetology school. So actually that was on the roster. But it's like, I didn't feel like I even started to figure things out, in air quotes, until like the past year or so, you know, that I've started to feel a little bit grounded. And through that, I feel like because you go through so many transformative stages, the friendships become so much richer, like the ones that stay around through all of the changes and stuff like that. They get so much richer and so much deeper.
Yes.
And it's like, what a friend means to me now is totally different than what a friend meant to me when I was, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For
So.
sure.
I think when we were so young, friendship to me was just someone to talk to about everything and have sleepovers and I don't know, just like do everything and talk about everything. And there was just like nothing to worry about. So it was just pure fun.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like, I mean, when you're 15, you're just a kid.
Right.
You're just a taller, just a little more matured kid.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's all you think about is just sleepovers and just having fun and living in the moment. And I think friendship now is just so much different and so much more valuable when you have someone to go through life with.
Yeah, all around it is richer, and the emotional support is top tier. Hopefully most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not just something that like you're getting emotional support from them, but you have to give emotional support too. Like, one of the other good things I feel like with friendships in your 20s is that it's going to require a lot more of you, but you're going to also then get so much more out of it.
Yeah.
Or that's how it should be anyway. Obviously it doesn't always work that way, but that's the goal, right?
Which I do feel like that transition from teenage relationships into adult relationships was a little bit hard for me. And like, it felt like relationships were like suddenly just changing, and people that it was so easy to be close to, it wasn't that easy anymore, whether that's because personalities changed or life went in different direction, or just because you're becoming adults and you need to put more effort to keep them around, That was one of those things that was like eye-opening for me, I would say.
I can't even remember how it happened. My only childhood friend, who I would consider like my childhood friend, we probably met when I was like 9 and she was like 10. And we're still like such good friends. But it's just different. It went from playing in the creek every day and making fairy houses and mud pies to all of a sudden, it seemed like overnight, having crushes on guys and talking about marriage and babies. And that's just weird. But it's just
now
like,
you're married.
Yeah. But it's so fun to think back on those good times,
Mhm.
you know, and like,
And you know what I would actually categorize as good, even though it sounds like it could be taken as not good, is how different life plays out than what you dreamed about in your teen years.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If my life went exactly the way my teen years like I wanted it to, I would be in a much worse place.
Yeah.
Right now.
I was reading Twilight, so
Yeah.
I would have been in a
Edward Cullen.
pretty bad relationship.
I think one of the other nice things about friendships in your 20s is that there's so many opportunities to celebrate big life moments.
Yes.
New jobs, marriage, whatever. Babies, if that happens, if that's what you want. If not, it's okay.
But yeah, celebrating the big moments is
They're great.
really fun.
I don't like showers, but otherwise I like celebrating the big
Yeah, I
moments.
feel like it's more fun because of that.
Yeah.
Friendships in your 20s is more fun because you get to celebrate those big moments.
Yeah. And they're not happening at the same time as everybody else. Like whenever you're in high school, like you're all going to prom at the same time.
When
You're all
in
graduating the same time usually.
You like each get your moment.
Yeah.
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 And when you're in high school, you get to play together. But when you're adult, you get to do life together. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of the things that I wrote down was under the good is that you get to uncover life together and be truer friends to each other.
Yeah, I
because of
love that. I love that.
Yeah, like you're so, you know, there's just so much to figure out, and then it's like as you figure things out, certain people fall off, and then the other people, it gets so much better. You know.
I think making friends in your 20s can be a little bit easier at times, mainly because you are consistently put into new situations. Like a new job is going to introduce you to people, or maybe you travel for work and you can be introduced to people. But a hard thing that comes alongside work and stuff like that is that careers are so demanding and they take up so much of your time. And I feel like that makes so many other things with friendships so difficult, like making time to spend with one another and communication and
Yep.
and all that other stuff. Is that especially in your early 20s, whenever people are just kind of starting to get their careers figured out for the most part, that's all you do. That's like your number one priority.
Yep.
And that's such a huge switch too, because prior to that, all your life, even in college, well, maybe not so much in college. If you go to college at that point, school is your priority, but I would say equally so for a lot of people that friendships are a really high top priority as well. And a shift happens whenever you get into career, because at that point your friendships are no longer as high a priority, right? And that makes it so much harder.
Yeah. You like have to consciously make it a priority. And that's actually something that I feel like I have learned over the past few years. I have had a lot of issues with friendships because I have dealt with so much social anxiety that during my teen years, I didn't have any sleepovers, like, because I was so socially anxious that I didn't have any friends. I had like a lot of acquaintances, like people that I knew at church, I would say I started having sleepovers again in like the later part of my teen years, but like the early to mid teen years, there were several years where I didn't have a sleepover because I was so socially anxious. And I think that for me has like actually made, even though that time was super hard, it's made friendships in my 20s even cooler because I feel like I get to not only like really have friends for the first time, but like also have like the truest form of friends.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Along with that. And so
You get to experience the true form
yeah,
of friendship.
which has come with filtering some out, but
Of course.
I feel like we've all been
always,
there.
yes. But
I had to filter Katie out for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, she sure
Ooh.
did.
I did.
intrigue.
Yeah, just for a little bit though. We got back together eventually.
Yeah. Time heals.
All wounds. Not all of them though, let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Sometimes it just kind of numbs them.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just time cuts off a limb and then you just move on without it.
Ooh.
That's why we
Yeah.
go to therapy.
Yeah, I need to call my therapist this week. Kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. I probably should, but
Girl, I feel you.
Yeah.
I saw my therapist recently too, so we good.
you know what? That's another one of the weird things about friendships in your 20s is that you bond over the most random weird things, and a lot of times it's mental health. Like you and I, like all three of us really have had some really good conversations about like, you know what, sometimes life just really sucks.
Yeah.
And, you know, the anxieties and the depression and whatever, if you've got like medication that you take or you go to therapy or you have some sort of diagnosis, like we've had a lot of conversations about that. And I've had some really good conversations with other people about that I mean, in high school, you just don't have the capacity or the understanding or the life experience.
You might be anxious and depressed, but you don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, that's
which is a huge thing for.
That's exactly to identify with other people about it. You have to be able to identify it in yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was in my teen years. Was like I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew that I like felt like I couldn't talk to people. I didn't know why. Like I was so scared to like talk to people. I didn't even know what anxiety was or that it was a thing. You know what I'm saying? Until my later teen years, where I was like, oh. I took like this online anxiety test and it was like high on the social anxiety scale. And I was
Elena,
like,
you messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
So how has that changed in your 20s? Like since you kind of started figuring those things out, how has that affected, like knowing that was such a huge obstacle for you in your friendships in your teen years? How does that change knowing that in your 20s?
I want to say this and I hope that it lands the right way because it can definitely be taken the wrong way. But what I have learned about anxiety is that it feels like you are so focused on everyone else, you know, it feels like that like all of your focus is on everyone else, but in reality your focus is on yourself and how you are portrayed to other people, and you're so concerned about what they think of you, what they don't think about you, you know, whatever kind of anxious thoughts, it's like the translation from you to them, you're so focused on yourself.
Yes.
And so because of that, anxiety is actually incredibly self-centered, and because of that it has been incredibly healing and eye-opening. I mean, eye-opening, yes, but like it has helped me grow internally for me to learn more about my anxieties and then intentionally like pursue relationships that I knew that because I dealt with anxiety that I had more of a tendency to be self-centered in my relationships and worry about me. And so I knew that I had to intentionally like train myself as I would literally tell myself this, and not in a way to put myself down, but in a way to just like check myself and be like, dude, look, nobody cares that much. Like nobody cares that much. You're making a way bigger deal about this one decision that you made or this way that you said something or something like that. And so nobody cares that much. And so just move on. And so I would tell myself that so that I could be more focused on the person in front of me. And then I also learned some tactical things like ask more questions than you talk, you know, and stuff like that. To like I had to go through some practical things, and I also just had to go through some like mindset shifts to help me genuinely pursue relationships. But it's just feel like because of that I've learned a lot about how people work, especially myself, but just also humans in general, and that relationships are not just, whether it's romantic or not, they're not just like how I feel about this person, but it's all a very intentional act, you know, like especially if you're struggling with something like anxiety, then you have like a huge brick wall to get past in that, which is where I feel like the practical things come in, you know. But
for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I'm actually, it's weird to say, because I did come to a point over the past few years where my anxiety felt like the benefit did not outweigh the cost. But as I'm getting closer to 30, I am like, okay, feeling really good. And I think that maybe the benefit is starting to outweigh the cost.
The benefit of having anxiety?
The benefit of what, or anxiety,
not having anxiety, but being somebody with anxiety.
Yeah, being somebody with anxiety and what that has taught me about life,
right,
and myself, and human beings.
So I struggle. I obviously have an anxiety disorder too. I think I've talked about it before, but I don't necessarily struggle so big on the social side of things. A lot of it for me is just like general doing life stuff that I have pretty severe anxiety over. But I do think that you're talking about it as being a selfish thing. I think that comes from the fact that a lot of it is kind of a survival thing.
Yes, 100%.
Anxiety is like constantly being, no matter how you experience it or what your triggers are, anxiety puts you in a state of survival mode.
Yep.
And whenever you're in a state of survival mode, and we're, obviously here we are bonding over mental health in our 20s. When you're in a state of survival, like you are focused on, how do I get myself out of this?
Yes.
What do I do to change the situation I'm in? Because how do I control this?
Yeah.
And that's where I tend to go, is how do I control this? And having anxiety has definitely, I'm realizing that I've always been an incredibly anxious person, even since I was really, really little, but it has not really had as big a role in my life as it has in the past handful of years. And it has had a significant effect on my relationships and on my friendships in my 20s.
Isn't that funny how you can look back on anxiety and you can be like, oh yeah, I was an anxious kid, like child, and then teen, and then now that you know so much about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, it all
recognize.
goes back to like in your 20s, you're finally able, like one of the best things about being in your 20s is, and ideally this is something that a lot of people are able to experience and have some success in, but able to become your own friend. Like, I don't think you can kind of think that you're your own friend, and obviously like you like yourself and stuff like that at different points. But I think going through the intrinsic work, or going into the inner work of becoming your own friend and getting to know yourself and stand up for yourself and all of that, I don't really feel like you do that successfully until you're in your 20s. And that becoming your own friend affects so greatly your relationship with others.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like a scientific thing or anatomy thing,
I
where
think
like
it's like,
your brain's not fully developed until
Yeah.
you're in your 20s, that you're able to really make those connections and
yeah.
all of that. I'm not sure what it is, but I would think most people don't really get to that point where they can fully understand those things until they're in their 20s.
Yeah. I think that in any relationship, I think there's a little bit of an age thing, but there's also a lot of people that are even older than us that haven't made the connections yet.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
And so it is a psychological thing. I just don't know like how that works like you. But I do know that I think the way that they become richer, and to your point, is like once you take your security out of somebody else's hands, everything gets better. Once you take it back, like my security in myself does not rely on who you are and how you treat me or don't treat me or whatever, or how you make me feel or don't make me feel. Then you see everything it's like you're putting glasses on for the first time. Like you need 20/20 vision kind of for the first time. Do we ever have 20/20 vision in life? No.
But no, unless you're God's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, speaking of friendships getting richer and deeper, the thing that sucks about that is that it hurts way more when it falls apart.
Yep.
Is my
Oh, wow.
big thing under the hard part of friendships in your 20s is like, especially since you're in a place of like figuring things out and everybody's
so
going to be,
vulnerable,
you're
Yeah.
so vulnerable. You don't really feel like you have a foundation, everything in between. And so you tend to hold a bit more stock in your relationships because you need something to help you feel grounded, and you haven't learned how to ground yourself, and you don't have a lot around you to ground you, And so whenever those things fall apart, God, it sucks.
Especially if it's a friendship that you've had for a while, like from your teens or something. And Katie and I went through that together. But yeah, I think whenever it's somebody that you've held on to for a while, or you've been friends for a while, and that is your only constant, yeah, it's a huge blow.
When it falls apart, it's way harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to my mom about this the other day. One friendship in particular, and it's almost worse that they're here and not choosing you and making that choice,
Right.
than them still being on this earth, knowing that like they have a life and you're not in it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
They're
hard.
actively
They're
choosing.
actively not letting you in their life.
Yeah.
And that's-
and she doesn't actually wish they were dead.
No.
No,
She-
absolutely
just, like,
not. It was
Rather
just a
they
metaphor.
not exist. Like
Yeah.
that I have no existence
a
of
metaphor.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
In
yeah.
my mind. Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that I could think to compare that
Yeah.
pain to.
Yeah.
Well, because in the situation where, you know, you lose friends the hard way, there's so much room for what if. Like, what if I did this differently? What if I
Yeah.
did that differently? Whereas if they were just no longer here,
Yeah.
there's
there
not
would be
really
no
room
what
for the
ifs.
what ifs. So I think that's kind of what you're talking
There's
about.
just room for grief, which is
Yeah.
a little easier
Yeah.
than
And
what
you,
ifs.
yeah, you get there eventually in friendships. Like, I've definitely grieved friendships for sure. But
Oh, yeah. I mean, depending on the, like, partner relationship, almost worse than a breakup.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's
it can
like your
be.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
It's a different dynamic. You
way
have to
different. And it's
grieve
honestly,
in a different way.
It's
Mhm.
it almost is worse. No, it is. I
It
would
is
say
worse.
It is.
I would say
It
it's
is.
worse too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many things that play into that makes friendship in your 20s hard. Is that, like, whether it's, you know, friends moving away because they got a different job, or their spouses or whatever got a different job, or, you know, they're getting married or divorced, and you know, there's just so many things that play into it that may affect. Whereas, like, in your teen years or something like that, your falling apart may not be due to external situations and circumstances that you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah.
In your 20s, there's so many other variables that are introduced. People going away for college, people going away for grad school, getting married, I've had friends who've gotten married and divorced already in their 20s, and or they have babies, or they lose a baby, or, you know, there's just so many things and so much life that happens in your 20s that has such a drastic effect on your ability to be a good friend, or your ability to have the capacity for friendships. And learning how to navigate each of those circumstances, because they're all so different. Like, getting married versus getting divorced, there's such different seasons of life. And being the person who's going through those things, you're going to have a diminished capacity for friendship. And being somebody who's on the outside, who has not gone through that period of life, or who is not currently actively going through the same thing, makes it so hard to identify and recognize that the capacity is not there. You've got your own stuff going on that makes it difficult to make up for that capacity and whatnot. It just makes it so hard.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and maybe I'm just thinking of like one thing in particular, but one of the things is that I think hurts the most, and I still feel it whenever I think about it, is that, like, they know what the right thing to do is, and they chose not to do it. And that, I think, is the hardest part, because it's not like you're teenagers anymore, or kids, where it's just kind of like, oh, I threw the dodgeball too hard and now you're mad at me, you know.
Yeah.
what I'm saying, it's like such
pick me for your team.
yeah, such small issues, or you know, he's not texting back fast enough, he hates me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like not those teenage issues or
Yeah.
anything like that. Which
Which at the time feels really hard.
It does
Yeah.
feel really
it
hard.
Feels bigger than
Yeah,
you.
it feels big.
I was listening to a different podcast. It's actually not around anymore. I loved it. It was called Approachable, and it was by Samantha Ravindal and Alyssa. I don't remember her last name, but she was talking about how people will make comments towards teenagers that's like, you're acting like this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And then Samantha Ravindal, she's like, because that is the worst thing that has ever happened to them.
To
They're
them,
only
yeah, up to
14
that
years
point.
old. They
Yeah.
don't know any bigger pain.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that, like, shifted my perspective on, you know, younger emotions.
Yeah.
I think that's so valuable.
It is, because you look at it and it's like, we may say things like, we'll make fun of ourselves for things that we went through
Right.
at the time, but, like, that's never an effort to belittle that
Yes.
experience. It's
Right.
just like, oh, I've been through so much more. I've survived through so much more since
Yeah.
then. That to me now feels small in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never want to belittle what, like, younger people or different
Yeah.
people have, even people my age. Maybe they've
Right.
just had a nice life up to this moment. And I don't want to belittle what makes,
Yeah.
you know, for them is huge. So-
Right. Yeah. And now we can laugh about it because we're older, and so we can laugh
Older
about our
and
experience.
wiser.
Yeah.
Our brains
but
have developed a little more.
Hopefully.
Yeah. That, I think, is one of the hardest things, is that it's like, as an adult, you've gained some wisdom, you're making your own decisions, and you chose to hurt me, and that's part of why it hurts even worse.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, one of the things I think is good is that you have lived life, you're an adult, and you can make decisions for yourself, which means that you can set your own limits and boundaries surrounding bad behavior of others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I find that so empowering, and it has made all the difference for me in my relationships in my 20s, is like recognizing that, oh, I don't have to put up with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is
Yeah.
something that I can say, you know what? No, I don't. Like, I won't tolerate this.
Yes.
I won't tolerate a first time, or I won't tolerate a third time. You get to make all your decisions based around that, and you have every right, every bit of power to do that. And I think that's so cool. And that's not something I would have really recognized prior to. Even like it's probably more my late 20s that I've really started recognizing that, not my early 20s.
Yeah.
Had I known that in my early 20s, things would have been different for me with a lot of my friendships. I think we have such a valiant view of ourselves in certain circumstances, especially really volatile ones like that.
Yeah.
And it's really important to humble yourself and recognize, especially in your 20s, when you're doing this in your 20s, to recognize that you also need work. You also need, you have also made mistakes in this, and to kind of sort through that and recognize, oh, I was weak in this moment,
Yeah.
and try to do better for future relationships. Things are going to be so much easier.
And especially with like today's day and age where like boundary work is such a topic of conversation and is being way more normalized, it is just as important for you to recognize, like, it's so easy to get into the mentality of just like, oh, you made me mad, boundary, and it's just kind of like, that's not always necessary.
Cutting out the toxic. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but if you are constantly cutting out toxic people, maybe you're the toxic one.
Yeah.
Yep. One thing for me, and I don't know, I bet you guys could probably relate to this. My friendships with my siblings have changed significantly throughout my 20s.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm living with my older brother right now. And if you had told me that 10 years ago, we'd be doing that, I'd absolutely not believe you. Be like, you're crazy. 100%.
Did you guys not get along?
So we had a rough childhood, and he just he had a really difficult childhood, and he was hurting a lot, and that hurt was taken out on me. As an adult, I recognized that hurt people, and that's just how that transitions.
Yeah.
So I have no bitterness over that, and I recognize, as children, neither of us really knew the full weight of what we were experiencing. But as adults, and really in the last handful of months, I've been doing my own internal work, and he's been doing his own internal work. And without having like a apology or like full conversation where I could see that he understood the hurt or whatever, like I didn't need any of that. It was just my recognizing, oh, he was hurting over something.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was hurting.
Yeah.
I think doing our own individual internal work and kind of working through that on our own set us up to a point where we can now be, try to work on our relationship and be friends.
Yeah. Yeah. My relationship with my siblings just got really, well, okay. So right before I turned 20, when I was 19, is when my parents got divorced, and it was a pretty nasty divorce. And so like whenever that happens, it feels like everything you've ever known is ripped out from under you. Like the rug just got ripped out from under you, and you're like, who, where, what? And at that time is when my mom was like, I don't know if I'm a Christian anymore. Like literally everything that I had known growing up was changing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my siblings and I, our foundation, like almost started from scratch at the beginning of our 20s. And I mean, my two older brothers were already in their 20s at that point, but my relationship with me and my brothers has drifted quite a bit because they've just gone down their own paths, and life has changed. And we, with one of my brothers, we just value things significantly differently. And so we can only become so close because of that. And I feel like a lot of that same stuff happens in just regular friendships as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's actually one of the things I put down for hard, is that some people they really do just change.
Yeah, they do. And so I feel like I've had a couple of my siblings change. Like me and my sister used to be like inseparable, and we have now drifted apart because she is just not very responsive.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's really hard to get in touch with, hard to hang out with. And to be quite honest, like, I know how this goes. I'm not mad at her or anything, but I know that, like, if I was a person that you really wanted to see, you would see me, you know? And so, like, if in that realm, I still, like, reach out to her and, like, try to hang out and try to, like, be there for her when I know she's going through hard times and stuff like that. But
How old is she?
she is 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
So I think she's turning 20. She'll be turning 26 in September.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, it's just been astounding to me, like, the siblings that I used to not be close to, I'm much closer to now. And the siblings that I used to be super close to, I'm way more distant from, like,
I
our
can kinda
friendships.
get that on my side too.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have as many siblings as you do. I'm the middle child, and there's 3 of us. But I think my sister, she's just in such a different stage of life. She's 24, so she's in her early 20s still, and it feels kind of silly to say that there's such a difference between that and your late 20s, but there is. There's such a big difference.
Yeah.
And my brother and I are in our late 20s. Well, my brother's 32, so he's not in his 20s anymore. But it's just a different stage of life. I would almost argue that, like, 25 to 35, you have more in common versus 20 to 29.
It's
or
a
20 to
huge
30.
leap too.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think that, but it really is.
You're really close with your sisters, though.
I'm really close with my sisters,
Yeah.
and it's
You always have been.
it's really sweet. Yeah.
Do you feel like your relationship changed at all throughout your 20s?
No.
It remained pretty consistent?
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
You have 2 younger
That's
sisters.
a rarity.
We
Yeah.
are super close,
That's
and
amazing.
we just have fun together.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And yeah,
What's the age difference? Because you've got 2 younger sisters.
I've got 2 younger sisters, so 26, 28, 29.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
I mean, what
I
has
love
changed?
it.
You've got a brother-in-law now.
yeah. We've always prayed that each other's significant others would get along with everyone else.
Mhm.
Like, we would all all 6 of us would have really fun together, and like, that's totally happened. We all have a blast together, and I honestly just couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bryce gets along with both of them, and the other 2, like Hannah's SO and Molly's SO, like, we just all get along together, and it's really fun.
That's so
and I know
nice.
that's really rare, but I don't have anything bad to say.
One of my favorite things about friendships in your 20s is the financial freedom to do some really fun things.
Yes.
Like maybe go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
We're planning to go to Hawaii
Yes.
at some point this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably.
all things considered.
We're saving for it. So
Yeah.
it
If
is
we can
real. We just haven't
our
locked
shit
down
together.
the
Yeah.
dates.
Oh, so exciting.
That's funny that you bring that up, because one of the things that I put under the good is alcohol and parties.
Yes.
And I should be clear on this. I've never been a big party person.
Yeah. Y'all like to throw like theme parties though. Like
yes, but
Halloween.
my
and-
husband and I, we will, ever since we bought a house, I feel like our parties are not just like, I don't know, they're parties, but like, it's not,
they're not ragers.
yeah, they're not ragers,
Yeah.
and they're themed usually. So it's going to be like Christmas or Halloween and stuff like that. And we even try to do different themes within that. And so I just feel like it's so much like you have money, like you can do more fun things. And also you turn 21, so you drink, and then you have those experiences together. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think that's just so much fun.
It's a fun thing. I
So
like
much
going
fun.
and saying like, "Hey, let's go get margaritas." Like
Yes.
I love margarita dates almost, if not more than I love coffee dates.
Ooh, we should
I
do more
know.
margarita dates then.
Yes, we should.
Okay, so this is kind of funny because earlier you said, Madeline, that you feel like it's easier to make friends because like you're having more life experiences. I actually wrote down that I feel like it's harder to make friends.
I think it is harder to make friends in your 20s. I just think
Yeah.
that you have more opportunities to make friends because you do like change careers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I may have like phrased myself wrong, but I think just because you do bounce around from careers and all of that, you are introduced to people more. But yeah, I do think overall it is harder to make new friends in your 20s. I agree with you.
Oh,
yeah, because it's like whenever you're younger, you can connect on such surface level things.
Well,
know what I'm
it's such a
saying?
convenience thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a convenience thing. Like you guys are just stuck together in school or at church or whatever.
And the energy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Emotional and physical.
I'm so tired all the time.
I know.
Yep. But I feel like it's so much harder because there are so many things to like navigate around as like personal interests, politics, fundamental values and
Life stage.
life stage. And on top of that, just plain out personality, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, why does it get so complicated?
I think part of what makes
know.
it complicated, and this to me is a hard thing and a good thing, is that your wants and needs out of friendships change so much. Like what you're looking to, because ultimately when you make friends, your number one going into it isn't what can I give this person, it's what can this person give me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So your wants and needs from friendships are so different at that point. And I think they're just a lot more personalized in what you're going through and who you are and what you've been through, that it's harder to find somebody who fits that mold.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's a good thing too, that you're able to kind of identify what your wants and needs are. And then whenever you find the person who, or the people who fit that, those friendships are so much better.
Yeah. One of the things that I wrote down, which I do think is in my opinion, it's the weirdest part of friendships in your 20s. And that is that sometimes nothing happens and you guys just drift apart. I think that's been one of the hardest things to grapple with, is just kind of like, there are some friendships where it's like, man, that person was really cool and our lives just went different directions. And, maybe you even follow them still on social media and you're like, they're still cool, like I feel like we could still be friends. And it's just, but then at the same time, it's like, there's nothing that's like pulling you to reach out to them. And so I don't know. It's just kind of like,
it's really weird, isn't
it's
it?
weird.
I have like 3 friends like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I'm like, oh wow, like they're so cool, but why would they want to hang out with me? It's like,
or it's like one of those things where you're like, I don't even know where to start.
I don't even know what to say. Like, it feels awkward to be like, hey, you want to hang out?
Yeah,
that's all you do. You just say, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just start with hi.
Yeah,
hey,
it sounds
hi,
simple,
hey,
but
with a smiley face.
Yeah.
But I do think that like a weird thing kind of about social media with all of that is that you do kind of have a sense of continued friendship with them, despite the fact that you don't talk, because you may like each other's posts, you may comment every once in a while, and it's your way of letting them know like, oh, I'm still keeping up. I still care about what's going on in your life. But we don't necessarily have to actually sit down and spend some time with one another. So there is a nice thing, in my being somebody who really most of the time despises social media, can admit that is an added benefit to having social media in order to keep up with the people who just naturally drift away.
Yeah, agreed. The few instances where we love social media.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who drift away, but there are people that you consciously choose to let go for a lot of different reasons. And to me, that's kind of a weird part of friendship in your 20s, that you have to make that decision at times where you're just like,
I can think of one.
Yeah, I have to let this person go.
Are you saying
Was
like
it me?
Like I did at one point, yeah.
Oh,
I let you know too.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a segue. I see.
It wasn't
Okay,
planned.
continue.
I just, Katie and I, we've been friends for a very, very long time. We've been close for a very, very long time. But since I was 14.
Yeah. 14, 15.
So, oh my God, half my life.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Half
That's
of
so
my
cool.
life.
Congratulations, guys.
Thanks.
You're my oldest relationship. But we did have a period of time from like 2016 to last year, 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
where we just kind of had to
5 worst years of my life.
Oh, mine too. I was missing a piece of my heart.
Me too.
Yeah, we drifted in different directions. I was in school, and you know, kind of going through my own stuff. I was 6 hours away, and my priorities and all of that and mindset was in a different spot. And you were going through a lot of things too, that if you want to speak to it, you can. But we kind of got to a point where, like, I know for sure for me, it was like a conscious decision to let you go.
Yeah.
Because you were going off to China, and like we were, it was just difficult for us to be friends, and neither of us were happy in the friendship. And
yeah, and I had broken up with your best friend.
yeah,
that was hard.
yeah. So if y'all didn't know, Katie was dating my best friend at one point, but she was also, you were my best friend too.
Yeah,
my best friends were. If you didn't know, my best friends were dating at one point. But I did at that point when you left for China. I made a conscious decision to let you go. There's a lot of things that played into that, and yeah. But I do think that was a tough thing to have to do. Obviously, at that point, we'd been really close for
a long
8 years.
Yeah.
Does that math add up? I don't know. I'm not keeping up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to just kind of like let a friendship, Long Harbor friendship go at that point. And I put
was really hard.
I put for a hard thing too, that like holding on to old friends for the sake of it.
Yeah.
For the sake of the fact that you've been friends for such a long time.
Yeah.
And whenever I made that decision, even obviously you and I have already kind of had our talks about this. So
yeah.
I'm not saying anything new, but like my making that decision, I did so knowing that we may never be friends again.
Yeah.
But that it was like we were hurting each other more than we were helping each other in those moments. And that thankfully we're obviously close again, which is so nice. But it took us 5 years to get there. Did. And I wasn't sure at a certain point if we ever would. But
I know. Yeah. That was so scary for me. I was like,
and we tried. We met up a couple of times. It was just like not natural at all. It was awkward.
Lots of time had to pass for a certain wound to heal in order for Madeline and I to start over. And I mean, I basically don't ever give people ultimatums because it will ruin friendships and relationships. So let's not do that. And that's what happened. I gave Madeline a really bad ultimatum.
It's okay because we're here now. Like we had a lot of growing to do, and I think we like now we can definitely recognize that and see that. And obviously we've had our loving conversations about it, like definitely recognizing again that
guys, this is not the first time we've had this conversation.
Does it sound like it? No,
you're not special.
No, we've obviously had our conversations about it, and like I recognize that in that I did things wrong, and Katie has recognized that she did.
I definitely did
things wrong, but it was a 2-part thing. It wasn't just all you. And we've had our conversations about that, and I think that's so important. It's in your 20s.
Oh, and let me just say, like, in my heart at that time, I was doing this out of love. Yeah, I was not trying to be mean to Madeline. Like, it was it was coming from the purest part of my heart, but it just didn't come off the way I wanted it to. And you were in that moment,
you were being misguided.
I was being misguided, and so it came off as exactly what it was. Yeah. And I would never do it that way today. Like,
yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's like whenever I think about cancel culture, I'm like, I feel really bad for people a lot of the time in cancel culture, because they'll like, people will dig up stuff on them from like 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, do you know how different people are 10, 15 years ago? You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can be in a completely different mentality that like you look back on that and you're like, wow, I can't believe I ever thought that way. That's disgusting. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And
it is. Yeah. Yeah. I look back and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't even recognize her.
Oh man. No, friendships, so you do sometimes have to, whenever there's drifting, you do sometimes have to make the conscious decision to let somebody go, but that doesn't always mean that it's the end. And whenever you need to, whenever you let somebody go, you have to do it, like, you have to actually let them go. You can't just hold on hoping, oh, maybe someday they'll come back. Maybe someday this will be good again,
Mhm.
because it may not. But if it does, that's beautiful and it's wonderful, and we're living proof that it's possible. But
Yeah.
friendships are just hard.
Yeah.
But they're worth fighting for
Yes.
sometimes.
One of the
Like-
things I want to bring up on the, like, piggybacking off of that conversation is that a weird thing about friendship in your 20s is that you're a lot less tolerant of unwanted advice.
Mhm.
Oh, girl, don't even get me started on that.
Because unwanted advice is often criticism, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I've been going through all my health issues recently. I've been going through a wild whirlwind of health issues, trying to figure things out, and physical health, well, and mental health, but
Just
physical,
all of it.
yeah, just everything, spiritual health. No, but I was just talking to a friend about this a couple of days ago. We had a little lunch date, and I am so hesitant to give people updates on my health journey,
Yeah.
because every time I update somebody, they're like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried keto diet? Have you seen this doctor? Have you listened to this expert? Have you read this study? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I snapped at my mom a few days ago because I had just gotten a test result back that was like, it turned out negative, which just meant that I didn't have an answer again, you know? And so I was super bummed, and I went and I texted her and I told her, you know, exactly what was going on. And then she like sent me this long text back with like how she had acid reflux, which is one of the things I'm dealing with, because she drank some peppermint tea, and she said a few other things. And I just like snapped back at her, and I was like, this text feels like it assumes that I haven't done extensive research on my own condition.
Yeah.
And everything that you've said is not information to me. I know that it's coming from a good place. I know that you just want to practically help me, but all I need is a hug right now. So speaking of unwanted advice, I feel so conflicted about this one, because I know that people just want to help usually. There are definitely people that just want to force their agenda, but or criticize you through their help. But I know that most of the people that I'm surrounded with, they just want to practically help, and in a practical
They wanna
way, they
fix
want
it.
to offer information or whatever. But whenever you're getting that from everyone, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah. I just have a few more things that I think we could hit on that are important. I don't want to miss. How have y'all experienced like loneliness in your 20s? And how have you dealt with that?
Oh God, yes.
That's kind of a interesting
That's-
question
yeah.
for me, because because of my social anxiety, I felt lonely for about 8 years, I would say,
Yeah.
in terms of friendships.
Yeah, I really struggled and have continually struggled with loneliness. I was really, really struggling with it in 2018, and I got a dog, and that
Nice.
helped a lot. She's my little buddy. No, I've struggled really seriously with loneliness. I think part of that too is that I've been in a serious committed relationship for a long while now, but it's been long distance, and there's a lot that goes into that. And ultimately, ideally, the person that you're in a relationship with is your best friend, and whenever they're not around, it can lead to a lot of loneliness. But I'm just gonna add a dog every time I go through a lonely period, which is
Yeah.
I've adopted 4 at this point, but I currently have 2 that live with me, so I think that's just gonna be my number one. It may not be the most healthy way to cope with loneliness, but it sure does help.
Yeah, I've
Companion.
definitely felt it in seasons of like depression. Even if
Mhm.
I wasn't alone,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you feel like really alone.
Yeah.
Like just
yeah.
so
Yeah.
it doesn't
Utter
matter
hopelessness.
who's around
Yeah.
you. They don't make you feel any better.
Yeah, so our loneliness had less to do with friends and more with like mental health.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so for me.
Just get a dog.
I do have one.
Yeah,
I
get
have
another
Cashew.
one.
We're gonna get another one.
Oh,
I did get married at 20 though, so
yeah, true.
I did have my husband as my best friend. Outside of that, I did struggle to have meaningful friendships.
Yeah. Well, so how, that's kind of
years.
the last thing that I thought we could, on my side, that we could really kind of talk about is how, you know, you both are married. I've been in a relationship for almost 8 years. We have been with our current partner or with a partner for the majority of our 20s, if not all of them up to this point. So how has that, in your opinion, affected like being able to build and retain friendships?
I don't feel like it's affected any other than like I meet people through my husband.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I have met friends that like some of my closest friends I met through my husband. So in terms of like opening up opportunity for meaningful friendships, I think that's really cool. Other than that, I don't really think it's changed the way I interact with my friends.
But does it make it difficult? Like for me, whenever I think about it, having been in a relationship for so long at this point, like it's a little bit harder for me to relate with people who are like dating around or they're constantly on dating apps, and that like that search is what takes up most of their time. Like it's harder for me to relate with them, and I even having like just difficulty having conversations. Like for me, that's what's difficult in it, not so much that like my time, because obviously long distance, my time's not usually taken up.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe Sam and I just have too much fun with that because we set up one of our friends and now they're married.
oh, that's fun.
And so I feel like we've like, and then my little brother came to visit over Christmas break, and we tried to get him to go talk to a bartender. Like it was like,
y'all are matchmakers.
We get so involved in that stuff. We have fun with it. So
yeah, that's so cute.
I don't think that we like force ourselves into situations, but my little brother said that he thought the bartender was cute, and so we were trying to get him to go up there and ask for her number.
Oh, did he do it?
He didn't do it.
Aw.
He also deals with social anxiety, so I try to not be too hard on him.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll get there someday. What about you?
In marriage, when you're committed to one person, I think it's really important to have friendships outside of your marriage or any committed relationship. It's really important to have other friendships because there's just, you know, sometimes you just need a second pair of ears or...
Yeah.
Yes. I think you can become more codependent if you don't have relationships outside of meaningful ones.
And I think it's unhealthy to just rely on your partner for emotional support or like
even a listening ear every single time. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, I talk to my husband about everything. But there does come a point where
he's
it's
currently sitting in the room right now, so
he is.
This might be coerced. Not really.
No, not at all. I talk to him about everything, and there is a point where I'm just kind of like, you know what? I've talked to him a lot about this. I should talk to a girlfriend about this. You know?
Yeah, I struggled for a little
make
bit.
It miserable for him.
Yeah, I struggled for a little bit because I recognized that, like, whenever you're with somebody for so long, for the most part, you don't really have friends that are just your friends. And there's certain things that, like, and I don't ever want to get in the habit of, like, I don't really complain about him or anything like that, but there's certain things about the relationship that I'm like, I would really like to just talk this out with somebody who has no, not necessarily like a connection, but I don't want my having a conversation about this to affect the way the other person views him or views me or views our relationship. I would just love to have somebody who I can talk to who is kind of a third party. Maybe they have, feelings for me, but they want the best for me and for my relationship.
Yes.
And I was finding myself at one point recognizing that I hadn't really invested in friendships in a while that filled that. That were just my friends, and whether that be girlfriends or guy friends or whatever, I just recognized that I was lacking in that area. And I think that's important too, that you have your own friends, and I want him to have his own friends that don't necessarily, I want them to know about me, and I want my friends to know about him, but we can have our own lives, right? So I recognized at one point that was something I had not been investing in much. So a lot of my friends were his family members or friends that we'd made together or that he introduced me to or whatever else. And it did make it more important for me to recognize that, like, I need to have my own people and my own stuff as well. And of course, eventually that's going to blend all together too, because that's just how it works. But for me, that ended up being kind of a goal and the focus in my friendships and being proactive in that.
Yeah. That's how it's been with me and Bryce. I know a lot of the times for a long time, I would just consider his friends my friends. And then I got to a point where I was like, like, I want what he has. I love his friends. I love hanging out. I love, like, engaging with them. But I'm like, I want what he has. I want, like, my circle. I want my friend group.
Yeah.
It's not as fulfilling, you know?
Well, and they may have, like, their dude nights or whatever.
Yeah.
The way they play poker.
And I
or
would
game
join.
nights or, yeah.
And
It's
it would
like,
be like,
yeah, what
like,
about
this
having a
is
girls' night or
fun,
something?
but I want a girls' night.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think my favorite thing, and this, I'm just going to boil it down to this. My very favorite thing about friendships in your 20s is that you can have low maintenance friendships.
Yes.
It's, to me, like one of the biggest victories of growing up is that you just recognize that everybody has their own life. They've got their
Yes.
own stuff to deal with. They've got their own priorities and schedules, and you'll see each other when you see each other. Like, you have to be proactive and actually make an effort to see them. But the amount of effort, I don't know. The amount the effort is high. Like, you have to put a lot of effort into maintaining relationships, but they just feel a lot more low.
It doesn't
low maintenance.
because you don't feel like you have to see each other every weekend in order for
Yeah,
you guys
like
to
every
feel
day.
like friends.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
go months without seeing each other
Yeah.
and pick up right where you left off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and have little interactions in between,
Mm-hmm.
and just you understand, or at least hopefully understand, that they do have their own lives, like you
Yeah,
said, you know,
yeah.
and that has to be respected. And I think that even sometimes if your friend is like really drifting away, then it probably means that they have like way more going on, whether that's negative or positive. And so
Yeah.
just like you extra reaching out to them can make all the difference
Yeah.
when that stuff is happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure.
But yeah, I love how like your relationship is not based on like seeing each other and texting each other every other
Oh,
day.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's that, like, face-to-face interaction isn't what sustains the relationship as much as it is just the relationship itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my good friends from high school, actually, she ended up having twin boys, and we rarely ever see each other. And there for a while, didn't really talk a whole lot because she had twin boys. And I don't think we had like a sushi date probably 2020 before the world turned bad. But it's been since then that we really had a full conversation or got to see each other or anything. But I still feel like if there was anything she needed from me, I would drop pretty much everything to be there,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
love that. What are y'all looking forward to this week?
I today had my first session with a personal trainer.
Ooh.
And so because I have complications with not only my health issues, but then also I have a bad shoulder. It's been really overwhelming for me. So I was just like, I bit the bullet, got a personal trainer. So Thursday I have my second session, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
What about you?
Well, I finally closed my apartment yesterday, turned in the keys and everything.
So
bittersweet. I know it is. It is bittersweet because there's a lot of life that was lived in that apartment. However, I've been kind of like going back and forth between the two places, my current house and the apartment, for 2 weeks now, and then prior to that packing up the apartment for probably 2 weeks before that. So the last month has just been a little awkward in a lot of ways, and I'm looking forward to having the chance this week to just kind of catch up on getting settled into the house now that the apartment is no longer in tow. There is also the potential of my going down to Austin this weekend and getting to see the Impala from Supernatural.
Ooh,
I don't know if y'all ever
fun.
watched this show Supernatural, but the two
haven't.
brothers drive around in this really cool old Impala.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Like
so,
one car. Okay, cool.
Yeah, one of the guys that plays one of the brothers owns a brewery just outside of Austin called Family Business, and they are having like a
Fun.
big crawfish boil,
Oh, how fun.
like,
I
event,
love crawfish
and they're
boils.
bringing out the Impala. They
Or
call her Baby.
That's so fun.
I should say I
So-
love jambalaya. I've never had a crawfish boil, but
They're pretty fine. They're good. They're good. But no, yeah. So if that works out and I get to go down there and see that would be really fun. So Cord, he is a huge Supernatural fan, and we get to go together. And I think what makes me most excited about it is watching him get to see the car. Like
cool.
that for
that's
me.
so
I don't
cute.
want to miss it because I want to see that for him. I don't want to
Yeah.
like if I didn't get to see the car, it wouldn't be a big deal. But I want to be able to see him see
Yeah.
the car.
Yeah.
So fun.
What about you, Katie?
I'm looking forward to every month we have dinner club.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Bryce, my sisters and their significant others, and another couple.
Mm-hmm.
We go to each other's houses. We take turns. So
Oh, that's so fun.
Hannah and Hunter hosted the first time. Molly and Rob hosted last time. And now it's Bryce and I's turn. And we're going to cook chicken masala, I think,
Oh,
with
nice.
pita
I love
bread
chicken masala.
and basmati rice. So anyway, we're
I
going to
wanna
have
come to dinner club.
that at our
Supper
house
club.
on Thursday night. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's so fun.
And I'm
I love
just-
that idea.
Yeah, I love that idea too.
I'm looking forward to a free weekend because this past weekend was just hectic.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. If you're having difficulty coming up with ways to see your married friends,
Y'all,
do dinner club, supper
it
club,
has
whatever.
been a game changer because we never see this other couple. They have
Mhm.
kids. They live an hour away. And we were like, we need to have a set time where we can like all hang out. And we all 8 of us have like a blast together.
Mhm.
So it's been working out for us and it's been really fun.
Oh,
So
that's so much fun. Well, I hope you all really enjoy yourselves.
thanks. We will.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.